Utah. Okay.
It's not Joe's first time.
It's not Joe's first time.
I've been here before.
But he liked it so much he came back.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
But I'm gonna out Andy. This is Andy's first convention.
This is her first panel ever. Haven't been a virgin in a while. I'm a little nervous. I don't know what that means.
All right. Well, welcome. I've got a couple of questions and some, like content for thought for y'all, and then I believe there's going to be a drawing as well in the middle of the panel. I'll let y'all decide when you want to do that drawing. There's some sick prizes. They're sick. They're sick prizes. I don't say that lightly. And then I'm going to open it up to audience questions after the drawing. Then we'll close off audience questions with just like some fun questions at the end to ensure that we end on time. All right. So, my first question is, how much did y'all know about the role before you auditioned? I know a lot of times these big projects, they like keep it close to their chest during the audition. So how much did you know what you were auditioning for?
No. Well, we were given character descriptions that, matched the characters that we ended up being cast as. I just realized you're right next to me and you're the casting director. What should I say?
Say then he didn't get. Oh, it's him.
But yeah, like you're right. They do keep things close. So it's like all names were changed, all identifying nouns and pronouns were changed. So it was a utter and complete surprise. At least for me, when I stepped into the booth and I looked at the script and I was like, I rule. What?
Complete mystery to me too when I first got the project.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea. And so everything was, you get these scripts and you call it sanitizing, so that nothing is announced and nobody knows anything about it. But there was a couple people that came in and they were like, some of these themes sound familiar. You can see they were starting to hint around. And then the second meeting I had, then they told me, and I was like, oh, I've heard of that. And I wanted to tell everybody so badly. You come in and people are so excited, and they were. I believe we were able to tell you it was Nintendo. I forgot if I told you that.
Not me.
No, we definitely got you right.
The specs were, it was Nintendo, and then you had to do like a British accent or like a standard American. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, it's got to be like Fire Emblem or something like that. And
people would guess, and I just was hanging with my tongue the whole time. And I wanted to tell everybody so badly. And it was, but we sanitized the script, and I was so excited to get this cast. I mean, come on. Amelia Gotham, that was Mifa and Lavali, of course, and they were all equally just brilliant. And we're trying to find new voices and surprise everybody. So it was very exciting. The first time I was able to tell everybody, and actually, if Sean was here, he'd agree. When I first told him, he literally squealed and ran across the room and went to the bathroom. And he told that story a lot of times, and it was just so much fun because everybody was such fans of Nintendo and of course Zelda.
Well, so I'm assuming everybody here at this table, you found out on the day when we first went in to record on the first day, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody give Jamie the face that you gave him on the day when you were then told, yes, we're working on The Legend of Zelda.
And Patricia in particular was really fun because it was like she was going to be Zelda. I'm like, this is going to be pretty big, this role. And she was just, it was like starting to sink in. It's just like, I'm, reading about things, upcoming projects and stuff. And then I remember it started to sink in that this is going to be a pretty big role. in a pretty big game.
Well, I suppose even when a game like that comes out and you really don't actually know what the scope, I don't think anybody could have predicted that it would have gotten this big and won this many awards and ultimately been the launch game for the Switch and all those amazing things that happened afterwards. We did not know.
Us actors don't get trusted very often. We have big mouths.
All right, so I'm gonna go on to the next question. So yeah, it was really close to the chest, and I'm sure it was a surprise because Zelda traditionally does not have voice acting outside of maybe some like gibberish. This was like the first big Zelda game to feature like a big cast of voice actors, at least one for me to experience like these lines and these dialogue spoken. So did you feel like there was kind of a lot of pressure that you were like adding this new element to a franchise that traditionally did not have this? Like this might be a bigger question for Jamie because this was your bear to tackle. So yeah, do you feel like there was a lot of pressure, and how did you kind of like alleviate that pressure as the voice actors?
I made up right in my heartbeat thinking about that. But it was, the client Nintendo, and it's all praise Nintendo because they're they brought this to us, and Formosa was the recording studio that brought me on, and all thanks to them because they were just amazing. But we talked about it endlessly about what to expect and should Link, I've heard that conversation, should Link have a voice? But if Link had a voice, and all of a sudden some people went, oh, that's not what I expected, and then all of a sudden you don't like Link, so they talked about that a lot too. But we knew to really tell a narrative, to really tell a narrative story that gets people involved, we had to voice it completely. And there's DJ, our unbelievable driver, keeping us safe the whole time. You just swooped in there.
Ninja hydration.
But the responsibility of it, you try to please as many people as you can. You try to talk about, accents and where they come from and the world. We're not in England, but there's a fantasy element to it. There's a fantasy accent to it, and just some of the characters, and depending on where they're from and what we thought about. But Nintendo gave a lot of great guidelines on that, and the pressure it is immense, but you can't think about it when you're doing that. Everybody's going, that's another gig, they know that it's great, Nintendo trusts me, and I trust them, great scripts, and then I trust the actors that I want to cast. And we go on, it's just a big love fest. Everybody's just, literally, it's just like everybody's just having such a great time. As much as fun as it is to play, it was that much fun to work on.
And inversely, I would say that we trust you with your direction and everything that you gave for us from day one, because there were times, I would say probably like maybe the first or second session that I had, where it's like, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm getting this right, or, I'm struggling, and Jamie was always there, so encouraging and like just so professional, and we couldn't have done it without your guidance and your direction.
You told us a love fest.
And I don't know if this was actually anybody's intention, because I know it was much done for secrecy, but I actually thought it was a brilliant move that we didn't know, like what we were voicing before we got there, because first of all, I'd already created this character and this voice that I was very comfortable and confident in, so it wasn't like somebody was like, you're gonna play Urbosa, come up with a voice. It was like I got to come up with a voice without the pressure and then voice it. And then also it's like, we didn't have enough time because it's like we were already in the booth, we were ready to record, you find out what the project is,
Go.
And go. And so it's almost like I didn't have time to freak out too much. It was like, all right, I'm here for a job, got to do that job, and the rest goes flying out the window.
Although I will say for my first session, Patricia and I went in first because we put together the demo that they did at E3 that year. And so Patricia got to do that great, beautiful, open your eyes, Link speech at the beginning. But if you played the demo at E3, or if you played the game at the beginning, when you first find the old man, it's when you walk around in the world and you come up to somebody, they don't have full speech. So my first session for Legend of Zelda was an hour of me going,
And the client and I were like, that's great, Bill. Nobody could have done that. But obviously. But that was obviously, we knew what we wanted Bill, we knew how much dialogue we were gonna have later for him, but it was just so funny bringing him in for that time and just having him do those things. We're like, that's great. He's, thinking like, is this all I'm gonna do with this character? It was, so the rest of it obviously was.
and in the role of grunting man.
He was amazing. We were so thrilled. So thrilled.
All right. Let's move on to the next question. Now, I can really tell just here at the panel that y'all are like a pretty tight knit group. Like you really had the teamwork and made the dream work with the game. So like, what did that look like first coming together to like sort of form this team? I know a lot of voiceover projects, everybody's in a different studio. Sometimes you don't even see the other people in the cast. But it seems like that wasn't the case with this project. You all kind of, no, you were all separate, right?
We were all separate. I only just met Elizabeth when we
Oh, wow.
when we got here to Utah. So we've
So,
made friends on social media and whatnot. But even after we did our stuff, we still didn't know who else was in the game because we still couldn't say anything about it.
huh.
not true. I met Joe in the hallway. I met Patricia. That's right. I met Patricia. We swapped places, but I didn't know who she was. Or no, did I know who she was? I don't know. It was a long time ago.
So something, with respects to the NDA, I mean, they want you to be very hush-hush. They don't want you saying like anything getting out, nothing leaking or spoiling or anything like that. I've known Bill personally for a couple years now since you've been out in LA, so we're friends. I didn't know he was working on this game. He didn't know I was working on this game. And then I think about 3 days before launch, Janie sent out a thread like, hey guys, we're getting ready, this is what's going on, and it had everybody in the cast. And I was like, wait a second.
I know that guy.
I know that guy. Yeah, I think that speaks to the strength of the NDA, and I would see Patricia in passing as I was leaving the studio and she was coming in, or I'd see Elizabeth coming in as I was heading out. So I mean, we would it's just very like hi, bye, hey, how's it going kind of thing. So, but I've gotten to know everybody in the cast, and I love these guys. I love them.
Oh. Was that your impa?
Yeah. Oh, don't make me do it. It's not
All right, so like a million people always ask like how do you break into voice acting, but I think what comes before that is what gave you the passion for voice acting? What made you want to pursue this struggle that is acting?
The money.
The money?
I personally enjoy working from home in my pajamas. Who wouldn't? Thank you. I'm only here for the comic relief. Go ahead.
We should answer this. Just because there are a lot of aspiring voice actors in the room, I'm sure. So everybody's got their own answer to that. I'll start with mine. I have always had a passion for voice and singing from a young age. And by the time I went to theater school, I started to pursue voice acting simultaneously. I took a class at theater school that was all about character voices and putting together a demo. And it was then that I realized that you could actually do this for work, and it blew my mind, and I started pursuing it instantly at that point. And I made my first demos, and then started to sort of, disseminate them out through where I was living. That's a horrible word to use, but and it led to sort of non-union work and the first little things. But yeah, passion is definitely something that you need for this, because most of it is doing auditions, getting rejected, and then every once in a while something comes through. And so you have to have a fascination with it, I think. You have to have a genuine love for just sitting in front of a microphone and just trying stuff out with your voice. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny. I've wanted to be an actor since I was 5 years old, so that was always on my plate, but I don't know why I had just never considered voice acting. I was always very focused on camera work, which is funny because I started playing video games at age 4. So, and I, played them all the way growing up, and RPGs were like a huge part of my childhood. I watched anime starting at like age 10 or 11. And so when a friend suggested to me, like, you have the skills, you have the knowledge, why have you never pursued voice acting? It was kind of like being hit on the head with a hammer. Like, it was like, oh my God, you're right, I could do this for a living. And I can't imagine my life without it now. I mean, I really can't. It's such a huge part of my identity to me now. So.
Yeah, originally my background is on the stage, theater degree, all that stuff. And when I was in college, I went out for this audition over at Disneyland, and I've been doing character voices now in the park for going on 14, 15 years now. And that was sort of my gateway into voiceover. If any of you guys have been to California Adventure and seen Turtle Talk with Crush, I do the voice of Crush, the sea turtle. Go, dude, go! It was an absolute blast being able to apply all the stuff that I was learning in my theater classes almost immediately into that. And I graduated from college, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm too ugly to be on, in a TV show. I don't want to see this mug on a big screen. So, and I figured,
Joseph, your mother says you're very pretty.
But I figured, I at least have the acting background, so you want to utilize the skills that you have. And so I took that foundation and the work that I had been doing with character voices, and I applied myself. I started taking voiceover classes, taking the classes, reading the books, just diving into the community. Something else that I think is really important that I think often gets missed out in all this is, people often ask, I want to be a voice actor and all that. Surround yourself with like-minded people that support your habit. And it doesn't need to necessarily be voice acting. It can be anything. If you want to be a plumber, if you want to be an electrician, find like-minded people that will encourage and really nurture that interest and that passion that you have. I had an ex-girlfriend back in college where she was like, why are you always doing these voices? What's with the voices? And we ended up breaking up, that's that. But here I am.
What's her name, Joe?
Suddenly no voice.
But what I'm trying to say is, do what you love, have that passion, and find people that will encourage that love that you have. So.
I can give a legit answer now, although money is a big deal. I kind of started like Patricia. I was a singer as a young girl. If any of you 80s kids are out there, I did music videos when I was like this big for Fleetwood Mac and all these as an actress.
We did not know this.
So I'm in Gypsy, and I was this big. I still show a video. Yeah, and Olivia Newton-John heart attack. It's just me and her, and I have this little curly afro. So they still play the videos, you guys can see them. So anyway, technically started as an actress, and then started singing in the studio at age 7. And I told some of you guys this, that I was going to be in a cartoon, and they cut the funding, and it never happened. So it just kind of stayed in the back of my mind forever, because that was like my first thing. And I'm an only child, and I was very, very shy when I was little. I have a mother with a very big personality. And so the booth was my happy place. I could do my thing and be free and not feel like I had an audience. And granted, now I'm totally fine with an audience, but it took many, many years of performing experience to get to that. I think the very first audition I ever did for a musical, I burst into tears because I was so nervous. I still got a part. I'm not not sure how. I think my drama teacher is just being nice to me, but so you have to have the acting background and you have to get the experience. And I just loved being in the booth so much. And a big part of what we do is really being comfortable in your element and getting the experience you can get. If any of you get into voiceover classes, I always say, do not take a class if they do not have a booth. That's what you really need to get comfortable, is on the mic, in the booth with your technique and everything like that. So here we are. Thank you.
I'm the same. I started off on the other coast though. I started off in New York, and I was doing a lot of theater out there. And I was like, oh, maybe I can have a go at this, and did a lot of regional stuff. And since I'm more of the elder statesman of the group here, I can say it was in 2001 when I finally got the opportunity, because at that time, in the late 90s, early 2000s, Central Park Media, Media Blasters, Right Stuff, they were all dubbing anime in New York. And, they were doing Pokemon and different shows, and so it was, because in LA they have a big, animation video game scene. In New York, they were looking for stage actors. They wanted people with an acting resume and acting training. So I started off doing a bunch of bit parts in a smaller thing called Assemble Insert, and then like Boogie Pop Phantom and a couple just random anime titles. And I really loved it. And yeah, much like I think most of the people at this table said, when I was a kid, I played video games and loved animation and anime, so it was like, man, this is great, because now I get to perform in something that I really, really love. Not that I didn't love stage, and I still do love stage, but that was the thing for me. So I started off with more stage, and then it was just that the voice acting thing really took off, and 4 years ago it took me to LA, where I got to meet Jamie and everybody, and then start working on great projects like Zelda. So yeah.